Hi, everyone. Welcome to our new at Midwest 2021 webinar. Thanks for joining us. I'm just going to give us a couple more minutes to give people more time to join. So thanks for sticking with us. All right, so we'll go ahead and dive in. So my name is Danny Hall. I'll be your host for today. And just a couple of housekeeping things before we begin. I wanted to let you guys know that this is a webinar, so your camera and microphone have been disabled, so you can hear and see us, but we cannot hear or see you. That being said, if you have any questions at all during the webinar, feel free to put them in the Q&A, and we'll either type an answer back to you or answer your question live. We'll be sending out a couple of polls throughout the webinar, and they'll just automatically appear on your screen. If you don't see them, go down to your little taskbar and hit polls. And then we'll share the results with all of you. There will also be a post-webinar survey that we'll send out. It should automatically appear on your screen after you leave the webinar, and all polls and surveys will be anonymous. So let's go ahead and launch our first poll. It is, how is your spring looking? So kind of, just a general question and a test to make sure you guys all know how the polls work. We'll give you about 30 seconds for each of the polls, so go ahead and get your answers in. All right, I'm going to share the results with you. And so the question was, how is your spring looking? And 71% of people said average, so not busier than normal and not slower than normal. Fantastic. So I'd also like to introduce our panelists for today. We have Nikki Moline. She's the Sales Operations Manager, and she leads and manages the sales, shipping, and order fulfillment teams to ensure customer expectations are met. Nikki also directs marketing activities and plays a pivotal role in strategic company planning. Nikki began her career interning at a prestigious garden in Chicago's Millennium Park and at an outdoor tree museum in Lisle, Illinois. Nikki is an Illinois Certified Nursery Professional, or ICN Pro, and she specializes in perennials. Then we have Shannon McInerney, who's our product manager, and she has over 15 years of industry experience, ranging all the way from landscape design, build, and seasonal displays to retail garden centers and floral design. At Midwest, Shannon manages the forecasting and accession processes, oversees the display gardens, manages license agreements for our brand programs, oversees maintenance of the inventory database, and is responsible for pricing. Shannon is also an Illinois Certified Nursery Professional who specializes in perennials. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Shannon and Nikki.
All right, thanks, Danny. Well, good morning, everyone. We're glad to have you with us today to talk about some plants. That's our favorite thing to do here. So first, we just wanted to give you a little bit of background about our accession process, which is how we add things or take things in and out of our product line. So we really encourage our staff to submit things. We have like a kind of a web page where they can do that. So we really encourage our staff to submit things that they've seen when they're out at shows, that you, our customers, are telling them about or asking them for. So that's one way. But we also want you all to be active in that process. So in St. Charles, we have our perennial trial gardens located around the building. And you can come check those out and see what we have in there. And we have three boxes that have evaluation forms around the garden. So on those little sheets, you can write which things that you see in the garden that you really like and would like us to add to the product line. And there are also a few lines there if there's something that you don't see in our trial gardens that you'd encourage us to carry, you can add those suggestions for us as well. So we always want to hear what you all want. And it doesn't just have to be new plants either. You know, that's a thing that you're going to see today is that we do try to keep up with the newest introductions on a lot of programs, but if there are plants that have been around a while that for whatever reason we, you know, stopped carrying and think we should bring back or never carried and, you know, think it's time for us to do so, we're always open to adding, you know, looking at those plants as well. So the one other way that you can, you know, help convey to us what you're interested in is through our website. So you can see in the lower right-hand corner there is a screenshot of our website, and there's a little button that said uh, customer plant request. So if there's something that you think we should be carrying, you can submit it through that form as well. So all that being said, we'll get down into the plants. So the first category we're going to look at today is ground covers, and Nikki is going to kick it off.
All right, guys. So ground cover is obviously Midwest Groundcovers namesake. So we have over 100 different varieties of ground covers, and we have a great in-house program called Hocus Pocus Ground Covers. That was a ground cover program that we developed for independent garden centers. So if you're not familiar with that, I would recommend going on our website to check it out. But in that program in particular, everything's carried in pints in flats of 10. And we have over 70 varieties of ground cover in that line. So like Shannon said, we have 2 new ground covers this year. We're really picky about what ground covers we bring on because of course we're the ground cover specialists. So we want to make sure they survive and perform the way they should. So the first one we want to talk about here is Sanguisorba Little Angel. And we trialed this one for a bit and got really excited about it. If you can see that picture there, that variegation in the leaf is quite fabulous. So I know most plant people, when we see a really great variegated plant, we're like, okay, is that variegation going to be stable? On this plant, it absolutely is. So we have not seen any reversion in the foliage. So with that wonderful foliage, on top of that, get some really, really cool little red flowers that look kind of like the top of a matchstick. So really cool little plant. Now it is very small, only gets about 4 inches tall and maybe 15 inches wide. So it is a little guy, but really interesting plant. Can handle a little bit more of a wet situation if you have one. So if you have kind of the edge of a rain garden or, you know, a border that gets a little bit more wet during the season, this plant will perform really well for you. Added bonus, it is also deer and rabbit resistant. I know in the Midwest, that's a huge problem we deal with. So overall, really cool little plant. And if you guys are interested in this one, we will have some available in June. So as we move through this presentation, we are going to tell you when these plants are going to be available. Sometimes with new intros, we don't have them right when we're launching into spring. So we want you to be aware of when the availability is going to be so you can plan accordingly. So that's Sanguisorba Little Angel.
All right, so then next we have Sedum rupestre prima angelina. So as the name implies, this is a sport of Sedum angelina, which many of you are probably familiar with. So this is just an improved version of Angelina, essentially. It's got a more compact habit, more uniform, about 3 to 6 inches tall and 6 to 8 inches wide. Its color is just a little bit more vibrant, denser habit. And like Angelina, it's a fast grower. So this is going to cover an area really nicely for you. This we planted in our trial gardens in 2019, and we're just really impressed with how quickly it grew, how quickly it took off. So it was nice to see that one. And that's kind of the point of our trial gardens, to see with our own eyes, how these plants are really looking. So I don't know if any of you are familiar with the annual sedum lemon coral. It's like been one of my favorites the past couple of years to use in containers, but I think this could be a really great substitution for that as well. The nice mound, you could stick it in a container if you can't get your hands on lemon coral. So definitely something to try out. So this is part of the Hocus Pocus program as well. And we are expecting it to be available in April. So that's Sedum Prima Angelina. So at the end of each category, Danny said we're going to be doing some polls. So at the end of each category, we'll do a poll. So those were our 2 ground covers. So please let us know. Are you most excited about Sanguisorba Little Angel or Sedum Prima Angelina?
And we did have a question about the Sanguisorba Little Angel. How vigorous or aggressive is it? It is a really small little plant, so it's only going to get about 15 inches wide. It is more like mounding, so it's not an aggressive spreader really. So I would say it's probably more of like an accent kind of border plant, but it's not going to like aggressively take over an area.
All right, so we have our poll results in, and the Sanguisorba Little Angel is edges out the sedum. So both very cool plants, but yeah, Sanguisorba is something a little new. So nice. All right, so then we're going to move on to natives, and several of these are part of the American Beauties program, which Nikki's going to talk about in a little bit. One is part of our native program, Natural Garden Natives. So we'll jump into the first one, which is Andropogon Gerardii Red October. So this we also have planted in our trial gardens. It's been out there since 2019. And we carry Blackhawks. We've carried Andropogon Blackhawks for the last couple of years. And we love that dark color that it gets in fall. So this is kind of a complement to that. Actually, this was theoretically the original. Blackhawks is a sport of Red October. So, or a seedling of Red October, I'm sorry. So as the name kind of tells the story, Red October is red very much of the year. So when it leaves out or emerges in spring, it kind of has a reddish tip to it. Greener during the summer, but then as the nights get cooler in August, it starts to get a more purple red color foliage. And then after the first frost is when it really like takes on the namesake. So it's kind of a mix of like candy apple and scarlet red, but just a really vibrant red color. And even those, Andropogon has those like 3-piece turkey foot seed heads, even the seed heads get that reddish color. So red all over. So this is going to be about the same in terms of Blackhawks in height and width, 4 to 6 foot tall, 2 to 3 foot spread, prefers full sun, and wants decent drainage. So, with some of these bigger grasses, if they get too wet, they tend to get a little bit floppy. So I think that is everything. So this one is available now. So whenever you're ready to start planting, this one's ready for you. So this is Andropogon Red October.
Okay, the next one we want to talk about is a natural garden native. And so to start off, I'll give you guys a little bit of a background what a natural garden native is, if you're not familiar. So natural garden natives are, again, an internal in-house native brand that we've developed. We actually acquired the Natural Garden back in 2011 and created this brand to recognize this group of plants. So natural garden natives are local ecotype natives. So what does local ecotype mean? Lots of fancy words. Local ecotype means that the seeds are sourced within 90 miles of St. Charles. So all the plants through this Natural Garden Natives brand are local ecotype to the Chicagoland area, meaning they were born and raised here in the Chicagoland area. So really cool kind of line of plants. If you're online and on our availability and you see that NGN notation, that's a natural garden native. So you know that that's local ecotype. So we don't bring a lot of new plants on here because, we try and carry, I think, a wide variety of what is currently in our Chicagoland region, but we did acquire some seed for Gentiana alba. So if you guys aren't familiar with gentians, bottle gentians, they are extremely hard to grow, especially in a production setting. So they like to be out in the wild, hanging out with their friends in natural areas, and they're hard for us to propagate and grow. So we were lucky enough to get some seed for Gentiana alba this year. So if you're a native plant nerd like I am, I would get them while you can, because both the blue gentian and this cream gentian, it's really unreliable for us. So when you see them on our availability, you should grab some if you're interested in them. So Gentiana alba is really similar to the blue gentian, or Gentiana andrewsii, if you guys are familiar with that one. But this one gets that nice white cream flower, gets a little bit taller, about a half a foot taller, and blooms about 3 weeks earlier than the blue gentian, but has a lot of the really great qualities that the blue gentian has as well. This plant is a pollinator feeder late in the season, which is incredibly important. I think when we talk about pollinators, we're always concerned about feeding them in the spring and summer months, but feeding them in the fall is incredibly important too. So this is a great plant for fall feeding. The biggest pollinator for this guy is bumblebees. Who doesn't love a cute little bumblebee? So the flowers stay closed like that, and then the bumblebees will actually kind of work their way into the flower and do their pollinator business. So really cool plant. Again, a really kind of collector plant if you're a lover of natives. I've seen this one out in the wild. It is amazing in the fall. It likes kind of woodland edges or prairie edges, but really, really great plant. So again, that's Gentiana alba, and we should have some available for you in May.
Okay, so next up we have Heliopsis heliganthoides summer nights. So this is part of the American Beauties program as well. So this is a plant that, like I said, I think we carried this maybe several to many years ago, and you know, for whatever reason, phased it out of the product line. And a couple years ago, Austin Eichscheid, who we do a lot of work with, he's done a lot in our gardens around Midwest. He was doing a project down at Millennium Park and asked us to special grow some of these for him. And so after seeing it again, we kind of took a second look and said, okay, maybe this is one that we need to bring back. So, it has the kind of typical yellow daisy-like flower like Heliopsis, but what's nice about this one, it has those dark purple black stems that really stand out against the foliage. This is a pretty big plant, so it can get up to 6 feet high. It makes a nice, filler kind of workhorse plant in the back of the border. You can keep it a little smaller by cutting it in half in around June or so. And it prefers full sun, but can take a little bit of shade. But if you're going to put it in shade, then you would want to cut it back as well, because it just helps it form a little bit denser clump, help the stems, be a little bit sturdier. So that would be something to do. So again, this is a great pollinator plant for butterflies and birds. The clump form, it forms a nice clump, but it's not aggressive where it's going to be like spreading and running all over your garden. The one kind of tip with that, because sometimes the natives, they like to spread out in different ways, it is good to deadhead this plant if possible. It'll help the flower performance, but then it'll also keep the seedlings from kind of spreading around in your other plants. So this is a really long bloomer, really nice one to check out. We, again, have this one available now, so it's ready when you're ready to go in spring. So Heliopsis summer nights.
Okay, the next one's another American Beauties native plant. If you guys aren't familiar with the American Beauties native plant line, it is a national brand developed by North Creek Nursery out on the East Coast. And so you might be sitting there thinking, okay, all these native brands, what's the right kind of native brand or native for me? So natives are kind of a highly technical group of plants. Natural garden natives, I think, are more for the native enthusiast, somebody who has kind of that higher level knowledge about natives. American Beauties is a great program if you're trying to introduce somebody to natives. So a lot of the plants in this program are more nativars or cultivars of natives. They have some interesting attributes, but they make it a lot of fun. Their website's great, their marketing's really fun. And I think it just gets people comfortable with the idea of natives, because there are some different stigmas attached to that. So if you're interested in getting a client interested in natives, maybe American Beauties might be the way way to do that. So you can go on their website as well. They have fantastic resources. So make sure to check that out. So Iris Purple Flame, I think Shannon and I saw this one back at Mance a couple years ago, and we were just like, oh my God, we need this plant. We were like, we're in love with it. My favorite color is purple too. So when I saw this like eggplant purple foliage, I was just like blown away. I was so excited. So one caveat with this plant, this purple foliage is just in the spring, which I know I wish it was all year, but just in the spring. So when the plant's emerging, it gets this deep purple foliage. And I think that's actually a great time of year to have this kind of color. I think we're always looking for color in the garden early in the season. And so if we can get it in a foliage manner, I think that's great. So as this plant emerges, it gets that eggplant purple foliage and then gets a really nice lavender purple flower display like other iris in the summer months. So multi-season interest on this guy, can handle kind of pond edges, so likes it a little bit on the wet side, which I think solves some problems when we're working on designs, and can get about 2 to 3 feet in height. So really cool plant. I'm really excited about this one. I know Shannon is too, and we should have some of this available in May of 2021. So Iris Purple Flame.
Okay, so then our last native is also part of the American Beauties program. And this is Panicum virgatum Cape Breeze. And this plant was also kind of brought to us or suggested to us by Austin Eichscheid. So he, suggested we check it out. We have had this in the trial garden since 2018 and have been evaluating it. And I decided to add it. It's because it's a little different from the rest of the panicum we carry. So you can see from that picture, it's got these really nice kind of airy seed heads. And I think the name suits it really well. So it was actually discovered by a landscape designer on Martha's Vineyard. So you can tell it's kind of like a, an ocean side. You can just like see it's kind of swaying in the wind. It's got that nice airy texture. So I think Cape Breeze is a nice descriptive name for it. But this is going to be a little bit smaller than the rest of the panicum we carry. So only about 3 feet tall, 2 feet wide. So, the panicum have been getting smaller in the past couple of years with some of the proven winter introductions, but this is going to be even smaller than that. It also has a really nice, or it's lengthened the kind of the seasonality of interest. So it starts blooming earlier than other panicums, and it stays green later into fall than most other panicums too. So you kind of have a longer window where you get the benefits of it. Like others, it's a tough plant, it's salt tolerant, so it can be good for some more difficult sites, roadsides and parking lots and things like that. So excited to see how this plant can get used. So this we are also expecting to have available in May. So this is Panicum Cape Breeze. So that was our last native. So we're going to do our poll on the natives. So tell us which you are most excited about. We had Andropogon Red October, Gentiana Alba, Heliopsis Summer Nights, Iris Purple Flame, and Panicum Cape Breeze.
And while you guys are taking that poll, I'll do a little plug. If you guys have questions about anything, make sure to utilize that Q&A. Shannon and I have that up, so we're looking at it as we move through the plants. And if you guys have a question, we'll be sure to answer it as we move through, either by typing it or verbally letting you guys know.
All right, so our winner is actually kind of even, but Iris Purple Flame is the winner. So yes, as Nikki said, that's one that we're both really excited about.
For sure.
It's something a lot different than we've seen. So
yep.
Cool. All right, so now we are going to move into our perennials. We have a lot of these, so actually we're going to split our polls up into 2 when we get to that. But the first one we want to talk about is Brunera Alexander's Great. So this is a plant that definitely proves that having our trial gardens is worth the investment we make in them. So this one was suggested by an employee several years ago. I don't know how excited some of the rest of us were to see this plant. We kind of felt like it was just another Brunera, but we got it. We planted some, and it's one that just kind of won us over the course of time. So it's been in the trial garden since 2016. Obviously has overwintered all those years, which I don't think is always the experience for some people in Brunera. So it's proven itself to be pretty tough around here. Um, but it also is just a really impressive plant. So you see the spring picture there where it's leafing out, kind of, what you'd expect from a Brunera, the nice blue flowers, the green foliage. You kind of like don't really know what's to come. This plant it obviously looks similar in foliage color to Jack Frost, but it gets so much bigger, about 2 foot tall and 2.5 feet wide, but the leaves themselves are so much bigger too, and just that nice bright white color. So this was one, like I said, when we go out there and see it, we'd be impressed. It came back on a lot of those customer evaluations I mentioned that, customers were liking it too. So it's one that we felt we had to add just based on, the responses we were getting to it. So as with most Brunera, if we get into a really hot and dry period, they tend to kind of peter out a little bit. So this one, I'm not going to say it's going to stay up and looking nice all summer. It will do the same, but it seems a little bit more vigorous than some of the others that can withstand those dry periods a little bit longer. So if you have the space for it, it's definitely one to try out if you're used to using Jack Frost. So this one is available now, and this was Brunera Alexander's Great.
Okay, next one is Echinacea purpurea powwow white. And if you're like me, you're probably sitting there going, oh my, why another echinacea? There's so many echinaceas on the market. Why do we need another echinacea? Well, here at Midwest, we trial our echinacea before we bring them on. We like to see kind of what they do. And we've actually been super thrilled with powwow wildberry. If you guys are more familiar with that one, tried that one out. And so when we were presented with powwow white, because of our great experience with wildberry, we thought, okay, we should bring on this guy. This plant and wildberry, pretty much everything I say here goes for that plant as well. Really, really nice compact echinacea. That's why this plant was bred, was to be compact, was bred to have better branching and really heavy flower set. So extremely floriferous. Also, a lot of echinaceas can be pretty expensive. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but with sombreros, they can be more on the pricey side. What's really nice with the powwow series, they're a little bit more cost effective too, and we do consider that when we bring plants on. So it's a little bit more of an affordable white echinacea as well, but still has that really great breeding of keeping it compact and extremely floriferous. So this guy's going to get about 1.5 feet tall and 1 foot wide. Other great thing, which is really true for all echinacea, they're drought tolerant, really easy care. You don't need to deadhead this guy. It'll just keep blooming throughout the summer. Likes, poor soils, is tolerant to heat and humidity. So this is really a workhorse for the garden, a good survivability. We've been really happy with it. So I think it's definitely one to try. We have a question, will all these plants be good for central Indiana? I would definitely check out our website or look at our catalog and check the zones of all these plants. This one's definitely hardy, obviously, to central Indiana. Very similar to Chicago weather. I know it can get a little bit warmer down there, but yes, I would say at least this one, very good for central Indiana. So Echinacea powwow white, available this May.
Yeah, and on that zone question as well, I think everything, central Indiana, my guess would be zone 6. I think everything we have in here today is totally fine the warmer you go. If anything, there might be a plant or two that if our neighbors to the north, it might not be able to take the cold as well. But if you're going to the south of the Chicago area, I think everything in here should be fine. Okay, so next up we have we're going to get into a series here. So this is the Hibiscus Summerific series, and our first one here is Berry Awesome. So these are proven winners introductions, and Berry Awesome was actually the proven winners plant perennial of the year in 2019. So you're probably thinking 2019 was 2 years ago, so why didn't you add it then? And this is just kind of how we see the cycles of plants go. So we carried a few more hibiscus, something maybe 4 or 5 years ago, just really weren't having very much, they weren't selling all that well. So we phased out a couple of them. We just kept one, Cranberry Crush, which we've carried for several years, which is also part of the Summerific series. But we kind of saw in the last year or two, but especially, through the gardening craze that COVID caused, that there really has been a resurgence in demand, especially with homeowners for this. So I'm super excited. When we phased out those couple hibiscus, it made me really sad because they're one of my favorite plants. So I am pumped that we are adding several new varieties. So very awesome. Has a lavender pink flower. You can see here about 7 to 8 inches wide. So like these are dinner plate size flowers we're getting into. But part of also what has, prompted us to add this Summerific series is how much the breeding has improved over some of those old hibiscus we got rid of. So you're probably familiar with like Copper King or Lord Baltimore, and those can get super tall, like 6 feet. But the flowers really are only like right on that top tier of the plant. So what Proven Winners has done with this Summerific series is brought the size of the plant down a little bit to about 4 or 5 feet. So it would make a good, kind of back border plant, also a good showpiece plant. But the flowers cover the whole plant. So all the way from the ground to the top of the plant, it has buds all the way up the stem. So obviously you get a lot more flowers, a lot longer blooming time. So they're just like so much more impressive than those old varieties of hibiscus. So like I said, this one's kind of a lavender pink. We've got a couple other colors. So we're expecting these to be available in May. So Nikki is going to tell you about the next one.
Yeah, I think we're all really excited about this Summerific series. I know our outside sales team actually took a trip to Walters this past summer, and we went right when all the hibiscus were in bloom, which we got really lucky that we went there during that time. The flowers on these plants, I know Shannon mentioned they're, 7 to 9 inches big. These pictures just don't even do it justice. Like the flowers were bigger than my hand. It was incredible. The flower show is just kind of, out of this world, really. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. Really nice plants too, because they're compact. So they're great landscape plants. So overall, just really excited about this program as well. So Cherry Chocolate, we really liked it when we saw it in person. Gets darker foliage that you might see on the previous one. So it's more of a, really dark purpley green foliage. And then the flower is that really kind of nice light pink with a deep red center and venation that goes out into the flower. Absolutely gorgeous, really beautiful, striking against that dark colored foliage. This plant, again, only gets 4 by 4 foot, so really compact for hibiscus actually, so anybody could really have one in their garden space, and just a flowering powerhouse. So again, this one is a Hibiscus Cherry Chocolate, and we should have some available for you in May.
And one thing I really love about that variety too is not just the color, but you could see that the flower has a little bit different texture where it kind of like overlaps itself. So just like another interesting feature that you don't get in some of the older varieties. So our third variety, our last variety of hibiscus, this Summerific series, is Holy Grail. So they named it Holy Grail because they felt like they really found something different with this plant. So you can see the dark foliage, almost black, and then that red, deep red color against it. So just like a combination that hadn't been seen before. So again, we carry Cranberry Crush, which is going to be more of like an olive green type foliage. So even there's a little bit difference between these two. So similar size to the other varieties, big flower like we talked about. So just a nice range of color options for you to check out. So that was Hibiscus Summerific Holy Grail. So I think we are at our next poll. Yes. So, so which of that first set of plants are you most excited, or are you most excited about? The Brunera Alexander's Great, Echinacea Powwow White, or the Hibiscus Summerific, Very Awesome, Cherry Chocolate, or Holy Grail?
Nobody on the Alexander's Great. I'm a little surprised by that.
I know, I am, especially again, because so many people, well, you guys will just have to come see it in person then, and maybe it will win you over. So
Yes, for sure. Powwow White, though, I'm really excited about that one as well. I think it's a great Echinacea addition. Okay, so the next plant, if you're a hosta collector, is the 2021 Hosta of the Year. So Hosta Rainbow's End. So usually here at Midwest, we try and carry the Hosta of the Year every year because it's kind of a nice promotion piece. And again, if you're a hosta collector, have a client that really is into hostas, it's kind of a fun sell for them. So this one's really a nice hosta. Gets this really interesting variegation, more so in the center of the leaf, as you can see from the photo. So it starts off more as a yellow, that kind of in the middle of the leaf variegation, and then ages to a cream. The really cool thing about this hosta is actually the flower scapes are a deep red, and then they get that really nice lavender flower in the summer. So really interesting kind of color patterns going on with this hosta. It is a medium-sized hosta, gets about 21 inches wide, 11 inches tall, so not a huge one. But those red scapes, I think, on this plant, which unfortunately aren't photographed here, but those red scapes are really this plant's claim to fame. So again, if you're a hosta collector, I'd make sure to grab some, because usually the hostas of the year, unless we find out that they're like, a powerhouse landscape performer, we usually only carry them for a year or two. So make sure to get them this year if you're interested. So we'll have some of these guys available for you in April.
all right, so next we have Nepeta Cat's Pajamas. And this is also part of the Proven Winners series. It's actually the Proven Winners 2021 Perennial Plant of the Year. So I guess after the hibiscus, we decided not to make that mistake again and carry this right off the bat. So Nikki mentioned Walter's Gardens a little bit ago, and they're the ones who introduced all the Proven Winners perennials. And they told us when we were up there that this was actually their #1 seller last year. So if you're not familiar with this one, I would definitely check it out, because it is taking off like crazy. So you can kind of see why from the picture. It's just a nice little compact Nepeta. So my memories of Nepeta are deadheading Walker's Low like 3 times a season, many years ago. And, the breeding has come such a long way since then, where you might be familiar with Cat's Meow. This is going to be even smaller than that. So about a foot high and a 1.5 feet wide. So great plant for front of the border. And it's not going to be, leggy like those older varieties where you only see the flowers on the very tip of the stem. On these flowers go all the way from the tip to the base of the plant. So just a nice, little bush per se of purple flowers. So definitely check this one out. Nepeta Cat's Pajamas. And this we're expecting to have available in May.
Okay, so this one isn't new for you landscape veterans out there. Peony Bartzella has been on the market for quite a while. We had it for a while and then we discontinued it, and now we're bringing it back because there's obviously demand out there. If you're not familiar with it, it's really kind of a showpiece plant. It's something that if you have somebody that wants like a special plant, something that they can show their friends that's kind of cool and unusual, that's really where Bartzella fits in. It's pretty expensive. It's a pretty expensive plant, honestly. So it's not something you're going to mass plant, but something that, you know, you have this little hidden kind of gem in your garden. So it gets those really beautiful full yellow peony flowers. And it's just like one of the brightest, most vivid flower colors you can get on a peony. Very, very different. I think one of the cool things about this plant too that maybe is a little bit underknown is its fall color. So you can see that picture there. It gets this really nice burgundy fall color. I'm a huge proponent of plants with multi-season interest, and I don't think people think of peonies that way. And this one definitely has that multi-season interest. So this plant is pretty medium sized. It gets about 3 feet tall to 3 feet wide. Again, those flowers are just really stand out. So if you guys are interested, we should have some of these in May, and that's Peony Bartzella.
Okay, next up we have Penstemon Midnight Masquerade. So this is also a proven winner's perennial. And the plant that I would compare this to that you might be familiar with is Penstemon Dark Towers. And Penstemon Dark Towers is a great plant. We have it in our modern Midwest garden, kind of in the back of the building in St. Charles. And when that goes, you know, starts going into bloom and coloring up, everyone just goes crazy over it. All the employees love it. So this is going to be similar in size to that, about 3 foot high, 2.5 foot wide. Dark towers might get a little bit darker foliage than this. They're probably pretty comparable. What's going to affect the coloring the most is how much sun you're getting. So the more sun these get, they want the UV rays to turn that, you know, to that darker color. So the more sun they get, the darker both of them are going to be. Kind of the difference between the two is the flower color on this one. Penstemon Dark Towers is white, you know, maybe like a hint of lavender, a light lavender pinky, where this is going to be a little bit deeper lavender color. So you can see the contrast between the flower color and the foliage is really nice, and you know, one helps offset the other. So we've had this in the trial garden since 2017. It's done really well. I've also had it in my own yard for at least 2 years, I would say. And it's a great low maintenance plant, to be honest. It comes up in spring, it flowers. When it's done flowering, you still have the nice seed heads up there for interest. It doesn't flop at all. It doesn't have insect or pest problems. It just is like this nice, you know, low maintenance plant. I kind of go with the same mindset we use at Midwest, where we try to leave as many plants up through the winter as we can for interest and for wildlife. And so pretty much I cut it down once a year and it comes back and looks great. So definitely check this one out. We should have it available in April. So this is Penstemon Midnight Masquerade.
Okay, the next one I'm really excited about. I'm a huge fan of shade garden plants, and this one is a really, really cool plant. So Polygonatum ruby slippers also has a fun name if you're a Wizard of Oz fan, ruby slippers. So where that ruby slippers name comes from is the stem of the plant gets a really dark ruby color, which I think is really striking. I really love polygonatums because they're great shade plants and they're colonizers. So they form a very nice dense colony of foliage that pretty much looks good all year round if you have it sited in the right place. These guys will grow under trees, amongst the tree roots. They're pretty vigorous plants, so really, really nice addition to our line. These have been pretty popular. We carry a variegated variety, so we wanted to add something different, so that's why we went with this one with the red stem. The other really cool thing about this plant is they get those kind of cool white flowers that hang down from the stems. in the spring months, and then those will eventually become blueberries into the fall. So again, multi-season interest, something I'm always really interested in when I'm recommending plants. And this guy's, again, good in full shade and will form a nice dense colony for you. So that is Polygonatum ruby slippers, and we should have this one available in June. Oh, question. Oh, Shannon, were you going to answer the reseeding question?
Yeah, we have a couple of questions we'll go back to. So one was on the Bartzella is, are they hardier than other Ito peonies? I can't speak to Bartzella specifically, but I do know with the tree peonies, one thing that's going to help you be more successful is you want to make sure that you plant them a little bit deeper than you normally would. You know, on a typical plant, on a typical peony, you want kind of that where the rootstock and the top of the plant or the graft to be under the soil enough, and that's going to help give it some insulation. So like I said, I can't say 100%, but I think if you're planting it that way, you'll probably have more success. So our second question, I think it's probably in regards to the penstemon, is does it reseed? And I have not seen it reseed. I don't believe it does, since it's a hybridized. I think it's sterile. I can't say for sure, but again, in my experience, I have had no issues with reseeding. Okay, so on to our last perennial, which is Sedum Carl. So I kind of mentioned, and we've had a couple other plants already that are older and have been, you know, we finally added or brought back. And so Sedum Carl is an older plant. I saw this one several years ago, again, when I was up at Walters. We were out in their fields where they do their bare root production, and it was the end of August, and this one was in bloom, and the color was just such a knockout. You know, we're used to that autumn joy kind of like dusty pink color, and this one is just such a nicer pink, more intense. I would say the most comparable sedum that we carry in color wise would be neon, and that's probably a little bit like brighter pink. This is a deeper pink, more saturated, but still really nice and really vibrant. So actually, after seeing it at Walters, came back to Midwest and realized we had a few of them planted in the Piet Oudolf garden in the front of the building. So that garden was designed in the early 2000s. We've done some renovations, you know, a few times over the course of the years. And sometimes when we change something, or, you know, not necessarily everything in that garden is in our catalog. We try to keep it that way, but it doesn't always happen. So we had a little patch of these Sedum Carl. So we started watching them a little bit more closely and just realized what a great plant and great color it is. So we actually did a renovation to the Piet Oudolf garden this past September and planted some bigger masses of these to really show off this plant. So again, I kind of compared it to neon. This one's going to be a little bit taller, so about 18 inches tall and 24 inches wide. But a really nice plant, and hopefully as we kind of get back to normal in the second half of the year, you can come out to St. Charles in August or September and check out this one when it's blooming. So otherwise we have it ready now. So this is Sedum Carl. So we are going to do our second perennial poll now. So which of the second batch of perennials are you most excited about? Hosta Rainbow's End, Nepeta Cat's Pajamas, Peony Bartzella, Penstemon Midnight Masquerade, Polygonatum Ruby Slippers, or Sedum Carl?
Wow, Cat's Pajamas. Very
Polygonatum too, very interesting, yeah.
You guys are gonna like Sedum Carl once you see it. The name, I get it. It's a little funny, but Sedum Carl's pretty sweet. So next we're gonna jump into grasses. We have 2 new varieties this year. We're pretty tough when we add grasses to our line. We always wanna make sure that they're extremely durable and are different enough from the grasses we currently currently grow. So that's why you never see a huge list of grasses from us being introduced, because we are pretty picky. So the first one we're introducing is Carex appalachica. I can finally say it, it's a tongue twister. And again, if you have seen our catalog, you know that we carry all the Carex, and you might be sitting there like I was and go, oh my God, why another Carex? But this one is so cool. I am obsessed with this plant. It's my new favorite Carex. And so it's not native to the kind of Chicagoland area. It's more native to the East Coast, but great for this area. So I believe it is hardy to zone 3. So, you know, it is a hardy plant, but great for slope stabilization, any sort of kind of meadowy area. You could plant it out, interplant with some even like native perennials or ornamental perennials, just really attractive grass. It's clumping, so it won't spread. Some Carex do spread by like rhizomes or the runners, but this guy stays in a nice clump. I think it kind of like looks like a little version of maybe like Sporobolus, or like Carex pennsylvanica is another one you could compare it to, but this guy will stay green in the summer months. Carex pennsylvanica tends to brown out when we get really warm, humid temperatures, especially if it's in sun. So this guy is drought tolerant, deer resistant, good and full to part shade. And the last thing I want to kind of talk about is its little seed heads. So I think one of the reasons why we added it was we walked past it in the trial houses and it was covered in its little seed heads and it looked like fiber optic grass. We were like, wow, that Carex is so cool. Like just really interesting, very different from anything else that we carry. And we like that it's a nice, tidy landscape plant that likes to stay in its little mound. So if you have an area that I think, you know, or that you think might be right for this, definitely try it out, Carex appalachica, and we should have this available in June of 2021.
All right, we had a question on the sedum carl. Does it splay or donut? In the grouping of them that we had, we did not see that. I will say that again, in the Pete Olive Garden, we don't have any irrigation there. So it probably runs a little bit drier than maybe some places you have with irrigation. But I think that tends to cause it a little bit more sometimes too, if the plants are a little wet. So no, we haven't seen any issues. But, you know, let us know if you try it out and find out differently. Okay, so our next plant is Haconocloa macra. So many of you are probably familiar with the cultivars of Haconocloa, all gold and areola. So this is the straight species that those were bred off of. So while those are gold or variegated, this is going to be just that nice chartreuse green color. So we kind of got interested in trialing this one. We hear from a lot of customers, they have issues with overwintering the cultivars. So we wanted to see if this one did any better. And for us, we found that it does. You know, we have had it in production since 2018. We've had it in the trial garden since 2019 and have had no overwintering issues with either. Even, I'll be honest, with the cultivars in production, sometimes we did have issues with overwintering. So what we found with that as well, though, is again, places that are going to be wet over the winter, you know, if you're piling up snow and it's never really going to dry out, it's going to stay damp, none of the Haconocloa are really going to like it. And it's going to be more that causes them to not make it than like temperature wise. So that being said, this one is a little bit tougher in all conditions. So it can take a little bit more sun than those other varieties of Haconocloa, although it does prefer shade. It can take a little bit more water variation from a little bit drier to a little bit wetter. So it's just a little bit more tolerant than the others. So like I said, we have this one planted in the trial gardens now. Just so you guys are kind of aware of the process. So now that it's actually part of the product line, we will move it over to Perennial Island, where we have the rest of our perennials and grasses. So then you can come and compare it to the other two Haconocloa and check it out there. So definitely come look at that. So, so we have these available now, so they are ready for you in spring. So that is our second grass, Haconocloa macra. So we have our next poll. So which grass are you most excited about, the Carex appalachica or the Haconocloa macra?
Awesome. I'm really excited about Carex appalachica too. I think it's going to be a great dry shade kind of grass. Haconocloa macra is also amazing, but both really good selections. Okay, we know we have 5 minutes left. We might go a little over. Shannon and I have gone a couple minutes over in each of our presentations. We're sorry, we're plant nerds, we just get excited. So, but we'll try and move through these shrubs as efficiently as possible, but still give you our anecdotes on each of them. So the first one we're gonna talk about is Cornus neon burst. If we could move to the next slide, please. And Cornus neon burst is a really cool plant. I think when we first got asked to trial it, we weren't really excited about it as a group. You know, I'm not a huge fan of yellow foliage plants, but seeing this one over time in our trial houses, it just grew on us. That yellow foliage color was so vibrant. The leaves stayed pretty clean during the summer months. And then that fall color was just completely a knockout, that kind of like multicolor fall color on the plant. This plant can handle a little bit of shade. The yellow foliage color will not be that intense if it is in a more part shade area. But if you have it in full sun, it gets that really, really, really yellow, yellow color. Flowers on this guy are pretty insignificant, so don't expect that to be a real big attribute. It's more about the foliage on this guy, and it also has red stems in the winter. So a lot to look at, but not great flowering. This one does get a little bit bigger, so probably going to be more of a back of the garden plant. It gets about 4 to 6 feet tall, and again, can handle some shade, but won't be as vibrant. So this one is Cornus neon burst. It's part of the first editions line, and it'll be available in May.
Okay, so our second shrub is Dyrevilla Night Glow, and this is part of the Bloomin' Easy series. So this is a newer series to us. We started carrying 4 of the plants last year, so if you are not familiar, check those out. But we're excited for this Dyrevilla. You all are probably familiar with the Proven Winners Kodiak series of Dyrevilla, and those have been a big hit for us. It seems like with the, you know, all the attention to pollinators, that Dyrevilla is a native plant that a lot of people are really interested in. So this one is kind of maybe an in-between of the Kodiak Black and the red, where, you know, the Kodiak Black, it is a little bit truer black, but it does have some of those green undertones to it, where this is just going to be like a more intense, more solid red color or reddish black color that you can see there. What's really nice too is it's got these yellow flowers that are a little bit bigger, and so the contrast between the two is very nice. This is going to be a little bit smaller than those as well. So those are, you know, maybe 3 to 5 foot tall, something like that, where this is only 2 to 3. So if you have a smaller space, this will fit in a little more nicely as well. So again, we're looking forward to this one, and we're expecting it to be available in June 2021.
All right, who's excited about another potentilla? I wasn't. When we decided to trial more potentilla, I was like, why potentilla? But we have to say this plant is pretty awesome. So again, threw this one in the trial houses with most of our other trial shrubs, and production actually came to us and was like, can we please carry this potentilla instead of other potentillas, because it just performs so much better. So we took a look at it, and yes, it absolutely does. So potentilla have the tendency, I think, to sporadically die back in the winter, like chunks of the plant. And also we can see some kind of defoliation in the summer. It can be kind of a problem plant. This one, we have not seen any of those issues. So it has stayed a really nice kind of tight mound of foliage for us in production, which I would assume would happen in the landscape as well. And then gets these nice kind of creamy white flowers. Very floriferous too, this one actually. So big improvement, I think, on the potentilla front. And potentilla are good because they are drought tolerant shrubs. So, you know, if you have a tough area, this potentilla specifically can be, I think, a really good workhorse for you in the garden. Again, nice tight habit, about 3 feet tall to 3 feet wide, and deer resistant too, which is always a great attribute. So potentilla creme brulee, which is part of the first editions line, will be available in June of 2021.
All right, so probably kind of along those potentilla lines, you're probably thinking we really need another spirea. So this is Spirea Double Play Doozy. And I would say if you have not checked out any of the other double play varieties in the double play series that we carry, this would be the one to check out. So a lot of them are really nice. I love Big Bang and like the color change that one takes on. This one, well, we'll get to, so this one, the foliage emerges kind of green with the reddish tinge to it. But the best thing about this plant is its reblooming capabilities. So it is sterile, so it's not going to seed all over the place, but that also just makes it keep blooming and blooming and blooming. So you can see on the picture there, you've kind of got the older blooms at the top there, but the newer, richer colored blooms just coming right from underneath. So you don't need to deadhead, it just keeps going. Kind of typical spirea height, 3 foot high and wide. And this is another one that actually our production team came to us and was super excited about and you know, really pushed us to carry. So we've also mentioned our trial houses a few times, and you might be wondering what those are. So those are not readily accessible for customers. Like I said, we have Perennial Island, or our perennial display garden, where you can go check out all of the perennials and grasses that we carry. But this spring, we're planning to break ground on a shrub display garden. So it would have both shrubs that we carry as well as shrubs that we're trialing. And that would be in St. Charles, kind of over by the UPIC area. So we've been talking about this a long time. We're really excited to get going on that. So you guys can come, you know, see all these with your own eyes too. So like I said, if you haven't checked out the double play series, check out Spirea Double Play Doozy, and these will have available in May.
Okay, last shrub for you guys. I feel like I'm excited about every plant, but I'm really excited about this one. So I just can't help myself. So Symphyricarpus Proudberry is a new introduction by proven winners. So I know we talked about Spirea, potentilla, hydrangeas, obviously there's constant breeding. I'm super excited to see more breeding done on native shrubs. So Symphyricarpus, Deervilla, Cephalanthus, they are amazing, amazing landscape plants. And I love the breeding that's going on. The breeding makes the plants more compact, maybe highlights their flowering attributes. And in this case with Proudberry, really highlighting that berry set. So if you guys aren't familiar with Symphyricarpus, it is such a durable plant. It's super hardy, think again, hardy to zone 3, drought tolerant, deer resistant, will take cold weather, will take poor soils. This plant doesn't die. So really great for kind of any tough landscape situation. This one in particular is awesome because it only gets about 3 to 4 feet tall and wide. So again, more compact for a landscape setting. And then this berry set. So the foliage is this really nice kind of glaucous blue-green color. Almost reminds me a little bit of Spirea tor foliage, but a little bit more on the blue side. And then this purple berry set in the fall is just incredible. I think Shannon had said she had some of these planted in front of her house and people were just like stopping to look at it, right, Shannon? Like,
yeah, I see people going by on walks and they're just like they're moving and their head is still looking at the coral berry. So
yeah, so that picture is absolutely representative of what the plant does. I know sometimes you're like, oh, marketing pictures, like, you know, does it really look like that? It does. It absolutely does. So if you're looking for something new, I love that there's new breeding going on with these native shrubs. Make sure to check out Symphorycarpus proudberry. And we have some available now, which is awesome. So you can get them right at the beginning of the season. So we have our final poll of the day, and we want to know which shrub you guys are most excited about. So again, we have the Cornus Neon Burst, Deervilla Night Glow, Potentilla Creme Brulee, Spirea Double Plate Doozy, and Symphorycarpus proudberry. So let us know which one you're jazzed about. Proudberry, yes. I'm so excited about this plant. And yeah, I think you guys are gonna love it. Just something different for your clients. Always what we're looking for. Okay, so we have one more slide for you. So Shannon and I, of course, love talking about plants, love nerding out about plants. So we have a couple different areas that you can kind of keep in touch with us and continue to learn more throughout the season. So the first thing I want to highlight is Instagram. During the kind of main growing season, every other week, Shannon and I do a garden walk around our property or in production to highlight what's looking great, what we're seeing, maybe do some plant comparisons. Because again, in some of our areas, we have comparison trials going on. So we can actually show you guys hands-on what are some of the best varieties, what are some of the things we would recommend for different applications. So make sure to follow us on Instagram, and you can actually watch our videos from this past year and maybe get some new ideas for 2021. And then the other thing that we have done is we have our Midwest Garden Pro series, which Shannon and I, again, have done a video series on YouTube where you can watch us talk about things like garden maintenance and cleanup, or roses, hydrangeas, ground covers, natives. And we're gonna continue to build on that kind of video library, again, going into 2021. So we already have a pretty hearty list there that you can check out, and we'll continue to do that. Finally, make sure to go on our website. We have online ordering now, if you guys haven't tried that out, live availability, lots of resources. So make sure to go on there and take a look at that stuff. So we so appreciate you guys taking out the time to, again, nerd out with us on plants today. When this seminar ends, you're going to get a survey. Please take it. Please let us know how we did. And there's an area for you guys to give us ideas on other webinars you would like to maybe see from us. So make sure to type in your ideas there. But otherwise, again, thank you, and have a wonderful rest of your day and weekend.
Thanks.